Hi, my name is Norma Padilla. I'm a master's student in teaching English. I'm going to talk about my research, and it starts with the question: can I use games in my third grade ESL students to improve their speaking motivation? I decided to do this research because of the situation around the world. We have to start using all technologies we know and give virtual classes using the different platforms we know. As we as teachers know that we have to do the best for our students. Then they want to socialize in their classes. But nowadays we only have virtual classes. That's why they feel sad, misunderstood, or had any feelings about rejection. Then this research reports a project which investigated how a teacher can motivate students to speak in English in virtual classes, and in particular, if we can use games in third grade ESL students to improve their speaking motivation. I was really worried about their speaking, so I started to read some theories that talk about the importance of speaking a foreign language. Then, the first thing that I found is that the importance of speaking as a foreign language, the definition of speaking, role of a teacher in speaking classes, the importance of speaking, motivating, speaking online, and language game definition. All of them were part of my literature review because I needed to investigate a lot to do the best for them. Although I had a lot of information for many tourists, I decided to look for some language games for virtual classes because the issue was in virtual classes. Here we have some examples, and for me the most important, or the one that I wanted to use in my video lesson, was the bragging game, that in this case is number 6. Having completed all my literature review, I started with my context, where I mentioned that I was working in Colegio Rosner, and this is a mixed school where most of the students are boys. The biggest part of the school are the primary level, then secondary is in the middle part, but we only have one group of each grade. The grade that I was worried about was third grade, and in this grade we have two levels: the higher level that is mixed with upper intermediate, and basic level with basic intermediate or low intermediate. In fact, we use a platform called Notion where all the topics are given to us, and this platform is designed for advanced students. That's why we have some issues, because sometimes our students don't understand them, and I have to change most of the topics, not the topics, the plans that the platform gave us. So I chose the observation methodology to realize if I needed to change something in my teaching of how to help my students and motivate them in their English speakings. Also, I mentioned in this study some theories that help us with the use of methodologies, like McNiff, that he was for me one of the principles that tell us that in action research you aim to watch yourself, and you also watch other people to check how you are influencing them in an educational way, because you are at the center of the action. It is not always possible to observe yourself, so you need to find ways to doing this, such as using video or asking other people to observe you. In fact, DeLong said too, if you are a member of a team, your college will probably be willing to observe you or allow you to observe them. Taking in account all these theories and the methodology that I decided to use, I was going to use as data collection instruments a field journal, rubrics, and a video lesson. But firstly, in this field journal, I take observation of 3 weeks. That's why I have one example of a day where I took this kind of observation for my field journal, and the kind of rubrics that we have in the school that are part of the platform that we use. This is called Notion, as I told you, and this is the part of the assessment criteria of the rubrics. We have the rubrics assessed from 4 to 0, and the higher number is for the highest grade. Finally, the video lesson. This is part of a picture of my video lesson where 6 students were part of it. I was given a class of comparatives where I used the bragging game, where they have to say something better about the character that they chose of Avengers, the movie of Avengers. Then they did it awesome. Here we have 2 charts where we can see the prior results. I decided to present this chart where we can see the speaking participation percentage of each student week by week. In my document, I explained that they had 3 classes per week, and I took this percentage per week to show you what is the average for each student and the rubrics that they have for each class and the average of each week. Those are not really different. The average of oral production and the rubrics are almost the same, and the highest grade and the percentage are in the middle of the percentage or the middle of the average. Those are not good grades or good marks for them. That's why I was worried. Here we have the graphs that show us the difference between the percentage of participation and rubrics assessment. If you see, the highest one is a little bit higher than 60%, and the lower is 20%, lower than 20. This is so worried for me. That's why I decided to do this research. And if you see, every color of the right graph shows us every week, where we can see how the students were up and down depending on their grades and their rubrics. They didn't want to participate. After the class where I implemented the bragging game, students did it much better. If we see the comparison between the sample class and the average of last 3 weeks in oral production percentage, the difference is so huge. The difference between 90% and 48.3% is so big. And if we talk about the rubrics, the difference between 3.6 and 203 is huge too. It's also huge. That's why I was telling that the implementation of games were great for them. Now they wanted to speak more, they wanted to participate. In fact, they wanted to support their classmates to win. Doesn't matter they weren't winning something special. They just wanted to win and do the best in class. Here we have the graph that shows the results of last charts, where we saw the results of rubrics. The difference between them, we have 2 different colors. The sample class, as I explained you about how they did it, and the last 3 weeks where they didn't want to speak. Their grades or marks as you want to call them, were so different. In fact, for the student that was so shy and didn't want to participate, just thinking in the opinion of his classmates, he wasn't thinking on that. He just wanted to play and say, to speak about the topic and say his examples and sentences. Then, if I can mention the effectiveness of the class, I can say that students were very nervous at the beginning because they didn't know if they were doing great for their team or they were judged by their classmates. And some students helped the other, and everyone enjoyed in class. I could check if they understood the grammar topic, the structure, and how to use their speaking to help others working together and as a good team. I can improve the implementation of these kind of games on virtual classes to motivate, watch, and hear them speaking in English. In fact, I was so happy with the results because nowadays they are doing better. I can say that not all of the games are according to the topics of the class, but I can change them and increase their participation. To validate all the information of this document, the principal of the school, my critical friend, and myself did a validation meeting where we were agreed about some points. In those points, we were discussing about what was my concern, what were the reasons for my concern, what did I do about it, and what are the outcomes. In fact, this meeting includes a list of the claims that will be made and the agreements that we reached. Also, it was signed by all of us, and it is part of the appendix of the document. Finally, I have some conclusions. As Whiteness said, language games can be instructive on several accounts when applied to semiotic discussion. In fact, any interaction with science, production of science, or attribution of meaning owes its existence to its status as a move in a language game that is a conceptual architecture, a grammar that we must uncover. Effectively, we uncover the grammar knowledge with a game for the students, and they practice the structure, pronunciation, and speaking. Also, they're listening because they should pay attention to the teacher examples and the turns of their classmates. Now they are doing much better. Their speaking participation is more frequent and better than before the implementation of games. Nowadays, they are having better marks than in the past. They really feel motivated to be part of the class, speaking on it, and the students engage actively in the learning process, and they learn how to speak in English better through games in the classroom. Thank you.